the IATF 16949 podcast, where we talk about all things automotive. Find us on our channel at youtube.com/IATF 16949 auditing, or visit our website at www.iatfglobaloversight.org. This is the IATF 16949 podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to the IOB SMMT podcast. We're here today from Kenilworth, England, with a very special guest, Jose Dominguez, one of our great colleagues from Mexico. He's made the trip over here, and we have Paul Hardiman.
Yeah, good afternoon. Pleased to be here again.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Devin, for the invitation.
Yes. Jose's going to be kind of talking about his specialty within the ISO world for us and how maybe that's going to impact some changes to the IATF standard coming up here, potentially in the next couple years. So
yeah, good afternoon, Jose. I'm really glad to have been working with you this week in the IATF new auditor group, and we thought we'd take this opportunity to get the bang up to date news about what's going on in the world of ISO, particularly related to ISO 9001. And maybe first you could explain what is your role within the ISO committees related to quality management.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I've been involved with TC 176. That is the technical committee that is responsible for all the standardization around quality assurance, quality management. I've been collaborating there since 1998, so almost 25 years. And I've been involved largely in the development of standards like ISO 9001. So recently we had the plenary meeting 2 weeks ago, and there was important resolutions taken on that meeting, following several years of systematic review of 9001, and then the drafting of a design specification for the future revision and a ballot that happens with the members of TC 176, in this case the subcommittee responsible for ISO 9001, when the result was positive in terms to move forward with the revision of the standard. So basically the resolutions taken was the constitution of a working group, another approval ballot for the design specification that is underway, and this working group is going to start the work in December this year. Actually here in the UK, the meeting will be in London, and the intention of this first meeting is to prepare a working draft. A working draft considering as a main input the latest changes that were introduced in 2020 on what is called the Annex SL, that is the common harmonized structure of all the management system standards in ISO, like ISO 9001 is one of those standards. So that will be part of the key elements in the working draft, is incorporating these elements, and then according to the design specifications, other inputs will be analyzed, discussed in order to produce a working draft that the expectation is to be circulated early next year.
Right, and I guess the $1 million question is it anticipated when we might see a revision issued for the ISO 9001 standard?
Yeah, at this point, the project was established to be a 2-year project, right? This is according to the ISO IEC directives. But also the group is anticipating that this potentially, depending on the discussions, on the debates and the inputs received by the member bodies of the technical committee, there could be the possibility to expand the project. So that's why the decision was taken on a 2 years period project, but with the possibility to be expanded to a 3-year period if necessary. But the intention is to have the standard completed and perhaps ready for publication by the end of 2025.
Right, okay. And maybe some of the listeners might not be fully familiar with the steps to issue a standard. So you've mentioned about the working draft. What would be the following steps leading up to formal
Yeah,
publication?
what I can say is there are like, let's say, like three main activities. No, one is, let's say, one activity is to produce. So basically, this first meeting is to produce the working draft. Working draft is a document that is for use on the working group members. The working group members are the ones who are reviewing the document, providing comments, and it's a very, very early draft, very immature draft, if you want to use an adjective. So after the produce is the circulation of the document. There will be some editing, some work done by the secretaries of the working group. After that circulation, there will be a time for the working group members to submit comments on the working draft, and then will be another activity of the working group to analyze the comments and make a disposition. A disposition means acceptance or rejection of the comments, and we will use this design specification as the framework for making that such disposition. After that disposition, there will be a decision to produce what is called the committee draft.
Okay.
And that draft will be to be circulated among the committee members. Also, once edited, is circulated, and then we will receive comments. On that, the group will reconvene to analyze and dispose the comments. And that's when potentially we will have the decision to see we have a mature document in order to move to the next stage, or we need to create a new CD or expand the process of analyzing, disposing the comments in order to have a mature document. So there's possibility to have a CD and that another CD, and that will create an expansion of the project. If that is not the case, then we can advance the project to the DIS stage.
Yeah,
that is the draft international standard, and that will have a more extended period of comments among the member bodies. Normally, the draft international standard has certain level of maturity that is normally circulated to a wider range of people, especially within the mirror committees of the member bodies that participate in the committee. Yeah. And this is going to continue the same process. Once the DIS is produced, it's going to be circulated for comments. Then we're going to receive comments, and there will be an activity to analyze and dispose the comments. And after that, there will be a final draft international standard produced. And that, again, will be circulated for balloting. Normally, balloting means that this will to be voted by the member bodies to approve or reject the document, and then is when we're going to be moving forward for the publication.
Yeah. And Devon, is there any link then between IATF and ISO?
Yeah, Paul. So obviously ISO is the base standard of IATF, right? So you can't have one without the others, we would say. Which means that as they're going through this revision to their standard, we're going to be watching closely and know that if anything changes, we need to revise IATF 16949 as well.
Yeah, but from a committee point of view, is there any representation of the automotive industry into ISO?
Yes, absolutely. So IATF does have members on the same task force that Jose is a part of.
Yeah. And Jose, I know it's very early days. Is there any views at the moment, maybe what needs changing in ISO 9001, given the changes in industry, the pandemic that we've had? Is there any early indication as to what changes might be made?
Yeah, at this point, we have engaged in such communication. We have identified certain inputs, like, for example, the harmonized structure. TC 176 has a task group that is doing like a research investigation of what is called emerging trends that can have an influence for the future work of TC-176. This group have produced several white papers on different topics. So these emerging trends documents will be part of the input. We're going to discuss what is relevant to ISO at this point in general, not only TC-176, but in the whole ISO community about climate change is a critical aspects to consider. Also, there is work ISO in ISO around the concepts of ESG, that is environmental, social, and governance. Yeah. So that could be also another aspect that can have an influence. And of course, there could be other technical committees that we will be also advancing the revision, like TC207 is also is going to be a revision of 14,001. So there could be an interaction. And parallel within TC176, besides 9001, ISO 9000 is going to be revised as well. So the initial activity will be to review the quality management principles, and there possibility that there is a revision of that small piece that is part of ISO 9000. And of course, the need perhaps to develop new definitions or revise current definitions and principles that will be along the way. So that's what I can say that can be the areas to influence. And basically the decision to accept or reject a comment or an input will be through an analysis of benefit and impact. Okay. So we want to see to accept whatever proposal for change or revision or inclusion of something new that is high beneficial to the user community and represent a low impact. That is not complex or represent a burden for the organizations in order to implement the changes. We want it to be high benefit, low impact. That will be the driver for making decisions about making changes to the current requirements.
Devin, anything you'd like to add from an IATF perspective, maybe before we just do a quick summary?
Yeah, I just want to step back to something that Jose had mentioned here and make sure that our listeners understand. Jose had mentioned there might be updates to ISO 9000. So Jose, can you just explain briefly the difference between 9001 and 9000?
Yeah, okay. So ISO 9000, let's see if I will use an analogy. If we see a house, the foundation where the house is built is ISO 9000 because it is the standard that provides us with the principles around quality management, fundamentals, and the core definitions. Yes, what is needs to be understood. ISO 9000 is the reference standards in terms of principles and definitions. So many standards that are published. For example, 17021 Part 1 make reference to ISO 9000 as one of the references. ISO 19011 that is for the guidance to conducting management system audits. Also make reference to ISO 9000. So it's very important because when you are drafting the requirements, there needs to be a clear consensus in the understanding of common terms among the people. So, but also that is why it's important since the last revision to conduct the revision projects in parallel, 9000 and 9001, because there is an interaction among the working groups revising, and sometimes the group revising the requirements is a stop because there is no clear consensus on the understanding of a term. So then that is taken to the working group doing the terminology and the principles. So they discuss and they come back with what could be a solution for the group. So that is that kind of intertwined activity will going to happen again for this project.
Yeah. Good. No, so it's been great having you here, Jose, to join us on this podcast. I guess let's just quickly summarize then from what you've told us that ISO 9001 revision process has started. It could be a 2 or a 3 year project. That's still to be determined. In parallel to the changes in 9001, we have changes to the base vocabulary, ISO 9000. And as Devon mentioned, IATF are monitoring the situation because it may be that IATF has to be updated with any changes that come from ISO 9001.
If I may say at the end, as Devin mentioned, IATF is a liaison with TC 176 and the subcommittee 2, who is the responsible for, in this case, for ISO 9001. So it has a voice.
Yeah.
It can participate in the conversations. It can provide comments also for the once the different drafts are going to be circulated. So IATF can participate in that process as well.
Good. And we'll obviously closely be monitoring the situation over the coming months and maybe years, and keeping you as listeners up to date with developments in both 9001 and IATF 16949. So once again, thanks, Jose. Good to see you again, Devon.
Absolutely.
And look forward to the next podcast.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
The IATF 16949 podcast, where we talk about all things automotive. Find us on our channel at youtube.com/IATF 16949 auditing, or visit our website at www.iatfglobaloversight.org. This is the IATF 16949 podcast.